Alright, response video to this evil guy here. Yeah, kind of a Brett Keane lookalike. Yeah, Brett Keane at 15. Pretty scary. Yeah! Anyway. Yeah, I think it was like his mother went for anal birth. Yeah, I think his mother went for the anal birth. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, look, you could like people, but, you know, this guy is just being obnoxious, and he's just... It's just more people just stomping around in their little yellow boots and just making mud. He's just making mud. Just making noise. He's not making anything called a rational argument, a coherent argument. You know, it's just total rational dissidence. It's just rational mush because it's just so self-contradictory. You can't make claims, and then he just sets up a whole bunch of a list of axioms that he's going to base everything on that he expects nobody to challenge. Well, anyway, it's just silly. So anyway, I'm going to let the cat do his part of the video. So the cat's more pleasant and interesting to look at, and it has some skills.
The statement A equals A, the law of identity, the basic truth of mathematics. It's like the basic truth of meaning. We're setting up this symbol, and this symbol means something. A equals A. If you agree with that, and if you find somebody else who agrees with it, then you know that you're dealing with somebody reasonable. And if somebody says A does not equal A, always, then you know that you're dealing with somebody who just really has no understanding of what's going on.
So, yeah, so this is where it's just all a pile of crap, right? Because he's just going to make a bunch of arguments based on premises that he's established where he's saying F equals W. And he's just saying that's, you know, that's his premise, and it is that dumb a premise. And obviously not as obvious as let's start from the beginning and work our way up. So, you know, it's just cliche crap. But anyway, yeah, I didn't know I started here. It's kind of a boring part, but the whole video is just shit.
He said mathematics is a bridge between subjectivity that's really after something that I am in touch with. So that is that was sort of what won me over. But the problem is, even though...
So he's saying that, yeah, he likes the idea that I'm bringing up this idea of logic being something structured and mathematical in terms of an analogy or comparison to something like math. You establish properties and then you put things in categories, and that's all math is. And there's nothing more to it, and there's nothing more to the rest of this logic. But I don't think he knows what logic is. I don't think he understands that it's not some sort of subjective process, it's an objective, rational process. It's a process that has rules. There's rules to what you put in categories. There's rules to defining a rational category. Categories have to be themselves coherent. The list of properties for something that's going to be put into a category has to be a coherent list. You can't put black and white in the same category and then call it the category of something that's going to be green.
A equals A. It's not something that you can prove scientifically. You can't set up experiments to prove A equals A.
Well, that's just stupid. I think, of course, you can, depending on what A is a representation of. But obviously, I think you can do that logically. The logical experiment is all you need. Okay, A is a category. A has these properties. The things in the category A have to be in the category A. Oh, duh.
And I can't set up an experiment to prove everything that I know is true. I can only do that for a certain subset of things.
Well, even there, what's your argument? Did you believe things that you don't have evidence that they're true? Of course you can set up an experiment, or you can make the logical argument. And the logical argument would be based on something like, well, look, I'm a sentient being. I know that these other things are sentient beings. And so you qualify what the premise is, and you say establish through just the premise. So yes, your personal experience says I definitely know what a feeling is because I'm having one. So no one can tell me I'm not having a feeling because I'm having the feeling. So yeah, how do I prove I'm having a feeling? Well, I can't really prove I'm having one, but I can certainly make the argument to other things that have the same condition that I have That, oh yeah, that thing you're having right there, that thing, like when I stick a knife in your ear, yeah, that's a feeling. Can we agree on the word? And can we agree that that sucks?
And then after that, you're just stuck. So I recognize that A equals A, but I don't do that through science. I do that through logic, which is a subjective state. I mean,
So he just called logic subjective. So what's the point? You know, it's not subject. Logic isn't subjective. Logic is, it's a consequence. You're given no choice because of the explicitity of. As long as your categories are explicit, logic is demanded. You don't have options. Logic, good logic, provides no options. There's no choices. The logic itself dictates what will have to be put in the category.
something that you logically sense is right. I mean,
Logically sense. I mean, what's the point? You know, that's just stupid. Logic is something you do through deduction, something you do through a process that's certainly different than sensing. You don't logically sense. Shit. You logically deduce, you logically conclude.
now we have computers to kind of help us with these things, but even if a computer can't analyze an argument of, say, if anti-natalism is true, you can't feed that into a computer and have it program morally right action. So
Again, so I'm supposed to just accept your statement. You're saying you can't program a computer to analyze cost-to-benefit analysis. It can't do cost-to-benefit analysis. It can't figure out what car is the most efficient once you put in standards and establish what the goal is, what the requirements and the minimum standards are, and the computer can't figure out which cars fit and which cars don't fit in that minimum standards. Of course it can. Alright, so as long as you program the computer with some sort of rational data points about what is acceptable burden to impose, what's the risk of the unacceptable burden being created, and what's the possibility of compensating for the unacceptable burden if it is created, the computer can do the risk analysis. Computers can give you risk analysis. Computers did risk analysis for the space shuttle, and the numbers came out, and people didn't want to pay any attention to them. But yeah, they had the numbers, and the numbers were a little bit frightening. You know, that 1 in 70 launches was going to be a catastrophic failure, and that's why they decided to quit doing shuttling.
when we're talking about feelings, you know, the feeling of guilt is a feeling. It's a subjective experience that we feel as a subjective being.
Yeah, right. But we don't acquire guilt through subjective experience. We can acquire guilt through very objective conversation, very real conversation, very literate conversation. So somebody can say something or inform you of a fact, so you can find out that you know the stuff you pour down your sink goes into the stream, and that there's people downstream drinking that water, and then you can find out that you're pouring dioxin into your water because you didn't realize that that's what some kind of whatever you were using, shoe polish or something. And then you can find out that you're responsible for the cancer that somebody's got downstream, and you would feel guilty. But the point is you would understand your guilt first. So it was the understanding of responsibility, not the feeling, that comes first. First you understand that you're responsible, then you emotionally react to that. So the two are two different things. So don't put them in the same category, but they're not the same thing. Acknowledging responsibility and wasting your time feeling guilty are two different things.
So the work that you need to do on yourself is, how do I deal with my subjective feelings? You say, oh, this feeling sucks.
Whatever. That's not a philosophy video, okay? You want to do psychology videos and tell people how they're supposed to feel. Go ahead and waste people's time with that nonsense. I don't think you're going to be very good at it, and I certainly don't give a rat's ass, okay? I don't want your advice on how to deal with my psychology. My psychology is irrelevant to the conversation. It's irrelevant to a discussion about what your theory of reality is, okay? And your theory of reality is full of goddamn bullshit. Provable falsehoods.
Like, this is guilt. This is no good. I have no use for this, right? I think we can agree on that. It's a negative state of mind. When you shame people using guilt, that's wrong. Don't.
Says you. Again, where do you pluck that? Where do you pluck that from somewhere? If I shamed a slave owner, I'm wrong. If I shame a man beating his wife, I'm wrong. If I shame a pedophile, I'm wrong. Fuck you, I'm not wrong. It's a perfectly appropriate thing to do, is to explain their liability, explain their irresponsibility, explain how it's a horrible waste, and if they feel bad about it, well, I don't really care. I just want them to accept responsibility. But they're not going to be able to accept responsibility without subjecting them to the potential of being, to feeling shame and feeling guilt. Those will be likely consequences of accepting responsibility. Dealing with their guilt or their shame is fundamentally their problem, and why don't you help people do that? Deal with your emotional problems, okay? Have videos about emotional problems, but don't claim you're talking philosophy, because this doesn't have anything to do with reality.
Fucking ever do that. Don't shame your kids. That's objectively wrong. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Right, so this is an asshole who says everything else is subjective, but he knows it's objectively wrong to teach children through a mechanism of empathy and knowledge of responsibility and accountability. No, I'm sorry, it's not wrong. Objectively or any other kind of wrong. I think it'd be idiotic to think you could raise a child without them encountering the emotion of shame or guilt. They're going to have to deal with those emotions.
It's not good. Don't murder your kids. Don't beat your kids. Don't.
Oh, Jesus. Don't murder your kids. Don't beat your kids. Well, in that order? Yeah, I guess if I better not murder them, because then I won't have the opportunity not to beat them.
Shame your kids. Fine. Great. Like, I'm you know, hopefully we're on the same page.
No, we're not.
And if a person experiences guilt as a result of shame or as a result of something else, the only thing they can do is learn how to deal with that feeling themselves, because they're only dealing with their subjective awareness. Now, they might be able to tune into somebody else.
Subjective awareness, again, what is that? So just keep talking bibbly-babbly boo kind of concepts. You know, subjective awareness. Is it a subjective awareness that we know what the Earth's mass is? We know its circumference. We know its orbit around the sun. We know when it reaches its maximum distance from the sun and its minimum distance from the sun. All that stuff is just subjective mush, huh? It's just like your opinion of chocolate versus vanilla is your understanding of the functional concepts. And your mental model of those is no different than your mental model of, I like eat ice cream. No, I don't think so.
It's a subjective awareness that's telling them how to deal with the guilt, and that's great. But what techniques do we have for that? Do we have them? Well, yes. The thing is, we can actually train our minds how to deal with these negative emotions.
We can train our minds. I mean, it's just so silly. Yeah, that's right. You can have knowledge of how to, of your brain. Your brain can acquire knowledge, and then your brain programs in your brain, those knowledge programs, can end up getting, surviving the internal testing as logical and sensible principles, and acquire an authority. Win the hierarchy inside your own consciousness, and then in that sense take some control. But they're still just programs. They're still no different than any of the other programs, in the sense that they're all made out of some kind of opinion. And there's qualified opinions. There's opinions that mean something in terms of how the evaluation takes place in your brain, and ones that don't mean anything. And as you learn more, as you become more knowledgeable, programs will start validating each other based on how much that program looks like something Einstein said versus something Barney the dinosaur said, or a Teletubby said. You start to make a distinction. Your brain is able to make distinctions between what programs tend to talk like something smart and what programs tend to talk like an asshole.
We can recognize pleasure and pain, and we can be aware of them when they happen. This is just basic mindfulness training. This isn't even anything spectacular. I mean, Buddhism has been doing this for quite a long time.
Yeah, Buddhism has been failing for quite a long time at doing anything. Okay, yeah, they're very good at starting fires. What else did Buddhists accomplish? I haven't seen anything.
You don't even have to be a Buddhist. You don't have to believe anything about Buddhism. All you have to do is be aware. That's it.
Trying to increase the volume. You don't have to believe in Buddhism. You don't have to believe in just mindfulness. So you're just using more just rhetoric, right? Mindfulness as if it had a meaning. It's like talking about some sort of mental attractiveness or something. It's just silly mush. You'll be mindful if you're educated, and you won't be mindful if you're not. Duh. You'll be smart if you're educated, and if you're not educated, if you don't have information, if you don't know how the game works, you're not going to play it very well. That's kind of a fact. Fuckhead. Damn. This is really not, this technology is not behaving.
Really all you can do. I mean, you can't expect that other people are going to change themselves. You can't go help anybody else or save them from anything.
I mean, just saying something stupid like that. You can't influence other people? Are you totally insane? I mean, really, you're making a video online. Why are you making it? Because you think nobody will listen to it and nobody will be affected by it. Is that your plan? I mean, there's nothing that ever happened in the whole course of human history that didn't happen because people influenced other people. They write pamphlets and start civil wars and do all kinds of things like that. They write slogans on the walls in blood or do some other kind of thing to influence other people, to change how things go. Ugh, fuck.
You can't save all of the children that are being born into terrible conditions.
Says you again, right? You can't save all the children born into terrible conditions. No, we can't stop terrible conditions somehow. We can't stop this. We can't do this. Yes, of course we can. We have the power to do that. You have no evidence that we don't have the power to do that. All of that comes from merely their 8% or whatever, 9% of the population that creates 99% of the squalor. We can't stop them. Well, we can certainly stop paying them to do it. That's certainly going to slow them down. And slowing them down just a little bit is all you need to do to save the future from the harm they'll create. It is that factual, okay? It's not like you have to erase the whole problem. You just have to slow down this, again, you're back to this number, this magic number of replacement population, and the number's kind of high. It's 2 kids just to that's if everybody played the game correctly. Each couple has to have replacement population, but that number gets really higher and higher as more kids don't have kids. Get it? So I mean, it doesn't become all that inconceivable that you'd have a population that's not sustainable. That's not going to sustain itself in growth, and it's going to decline. And once it's declining, it can decline all the way to 0 with no problem. So of course it can happen.
But at the same time, we shouldn't look at the children that are born into terrible conditions and go, all children are bad. It's always a bad decision to have a child. Because is it not logically possible that the child may be brought into the world and happen to make the world a better place?
Right. So again, this is just your bullshit, right? You don't got any evidence for any of this. You don't have any. So what decision? What child born now? Give me an example of some great human beings. Go ahead. Give me your list of great human beings. Go ahead. Let's have this list of great human beings. Where is it? Where? Yeah, you don't have any list. There's nobody you can find that you can point out that, oh, this is an essential one. This one's for sure being productive. No, because it's just about cleaning up messes. There is nobody who's a gift to the universe. It's just absolute nonsense. All you can do is be a good janitor in this shithole. And who wants to sentence a kid to that? What rational person sentences a kid to that? That's right, just a selfish asshole.
Or happen to benefit somebody. The problem is, it is logically possible that things get better in this universe. What?
Yeah, get better. What is that? Again, so argument from what? It's possible that you can take a dustpan and clean up the sewage. Or it's possible that you can just turn the valve off and the sewage stops flowing. I mean, it's not that complicated. This is like a leaky pipe or something, right? You can sit there and keep sopping up the water, or you can just turn the water off. Not complicated, asshole. But you're not going to be able to come up with any explanation to me about this better idea being some kind of intrinsic good. The only better you can do is stop breaking kids' legs. Stop giving them cancer. Stop torturing people for no goddamn good reason except your own silly ego. And I do mean silly ego. You know, especially from the position of most people, which is I'm a mediocrity. I'm at best mediocre, and yet I will force mediocrity onto the next generation. I mean, that's the height of grotesque. Is the most of the kids are born to people who are failures. They're failures at life, and yet they think they're qualified to have kids, which is just. I mean, like I said, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be hilarious.
Do we want to believe it or not? It is a logical possibility that things will get better. It's a logical possibility for us that our experiences will be happier and that we can enjoy our lives more and that we can work to make things better.
Yeah, well, whatever. This isn't. Who's arguing against that? That's just silly talk, right? It's just mush. Okay, the point is always, can you ever do anything to compensate for the worst of life that's dumped on these people who get these little short straws that you keep pulling? And do you have any right to impose that slavery on them, to force them to be the fodder for the game you're playing? You're playing some sort of high-risk gambling game, and you're just essentially burning down people's houses in the sense that you do this short straw thing, and you just say, well, too bad. I enjoyed the game. Well, that's just bullshit.
Actually possible. Whether it happens or not, we don't know, but it's not off the table. And so when you're looking at philosophy and you go, actually, it was not necessary for the universe to contain the possibilities of things getting better, right? We can imagine a universe where everything was just determined to go to shit from the get-go. It was never going to get any better from the get-go. We don't...
What does that even mean, the get-go? It was determined not to get any better. Any better than what? Before the get-go? Oh, see, this is, if you're gonna do this in some sort of coherent way. You can't talk about the get-go and then imply that somehow the get-go, before the get-go, there was a problem. No, there wasn't a problem before the get-go. So let's just go back to before get-go, asshole.
We know that we're living in this universe, and we have the logical possibility that we are not. So it actually puts us in a pretty good predicament, philosophically speaking.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, we have a big, huge mess to clean up, and we can clean it up, and then we can feel good about ourselves, and somehow that's an accomplishment. No, that's not an accomplishment. Cleaning it up unnecessarily slowly is pretty much a crime, right? If you could clean up, if you could put out a fire that's threatening people, and it's burning them up, and it's killing people, and you could put it out in 1 day, and you willfully choose to put it out in 100 days, to take 100 days to do something you could do done in 1 day, does that make you a good guy? No, I think it makes you an asshole. You're just an asshole, slowing down the process, buddy. Just one of the buttholes. Yeah, just, keeping the sewage flowing.
Whether you really want to believe everything's just going to shit, all sentient life should die, or however you want to phrase the argument, people shouldn't have kids. The other thing that's not...
Yeah, whatever. You're not making an argument. So what's your theory of hope? You don't have a theory of hope. You just say it. I think it's all going to be okay. Or I think it's possible that things could be okay. Yes, there's no probability. There's no realistic. There's nothing in the models you could run The computer models don't say it's going to happen. You're just looking at the formation of a hurricane, and you're just basically just saying, well, let's ignore what the computers say. Let's ignore all the models. Let's ignore all that we've learned about what's realistic, and we'll just hope it's going to go away. That's just bullshit.
The table, and this is going to make me sound like a crackpot, but firstly, I should say, in this material universe, even if you wiped out all sentient life, it wouldn't guarantee that future life would not evolve.
So now we're just going to go through the short list of the stupidest responses ever to the subject of anti-natalism. So this is number one stupid response is, well, what's the point in curing one kid with cancer if another kid might get cancer? Yeah, it's better to have only one kid with cancer than two kids with cancer. That's right. If I can prevent one cancer, that's all fucking win, asshole. The fact that there's cancer somewhere else, okay, well, that's too bad. I stopped this one, so I win, asshole. You can't figure that out? You can't figure out that it's better to have only one kid with cancer than two kids with cancer? You can't do that much logic on your own? I have to explain that to you? I mean, if there's a forest fire in North America, it doesn't put out the forest fire in Australia. So therefore, I shouldn't put the forest fire out in America because it's not going to do anything about the forest fire in Australia. I have to explain to you how that's logically fucking idiotic. I shouldn't have to do that.
Sentience and experience the same things. So what effect is that really going to have? It just means it temporarily doesn't really...
Yeah, no, it just means permanently and eternally, okay? Instead of two kids having cancer, only one had cancer. Yeah, it means the circumstance was improved. That's what it means. Shit.
Get us anywhere in terms of the ultimate picture.
Yeah, right. The ultimate picture of getting somewhere.
It does get rid of the ultimate picture for you if you decide you want to get out of here. Which is fine. You should totally have the freedom to check out if you think that life is so...
Right. You should, but we don't. And you've done nothing to ensure that. So, yeah, so this ridicule, this pointless, idiotic, just go kill yourself solution. And again, how would that help slavery? Let's say I was a slave. You should come up to me and say, well, if you don't like it, kill yourself. That's the solution to slavery. I kill myself and somehow slavery in North America would have ended. So if I was a slave 250 years ago, somebody just says, you don't like it, kill yourself. And I kill myself and slavery's over. Is that how it works? Oh no, I don't think it is how it works. I don't think that has anything at all to do with how it works. You're an idiot and an asshole. And you shouldn't kill yourself, but you should. You should get what you deserve. Your obnoxious insensitivity should get you what you deserve. The pianos you're putting over other people's heads should fall on you. They already have in a way. Obviously you were, a shit canal birth. There was the extra birth. Yeah, and they pulled the wrong thing out of the pan. Fucking turd.
Terrible, and it's never going to get better, and that the absence of any pleasure or pain is better than pain or pleasure, then fine, take yourself out of the equation, because, again,
how does that fix the problem? Oh, that's right, it doesn't do a goddamn thing for my existence. It doesn't undo my birth, and it will not prevent the next person like me from being born, will it? No, it won't. So it cures and fixes absolutely nothing in terms of preventing the future harm. And what else am I here to arguing? Oh yeah, that's right, I'm arguing for the prevention of future harm. You can't undo the past, you can't fix what's already been made, you can't undo the mess already made. All you can do is try to prevent tomorrow's mess, you fucking asshole, and you can't figure that out logically either. I have to explain that to you also, that the only thing that really matters is the future. Okay, the past is done, you can't undo it, the present's already happening, you can't do much about that either, and so all you got is the future. Fuckhead.
And we only know reality from subjective experience.
That's another stupid thing to say. I mean, of course, everything we know is a subjective experience, but are you going to say that about a computer program that's been programmed with every, with all the formulas for, say, thermodynamics, or all the formulas for algebra, and the say the tumbling of some sort of geometric form down a staircase or something, and you're going to say that it's only subjective what that computer knows? No, it has knowledge of the circumstance, and when you let the computer run the model, it will model it properly and as it will work in reality, because it has all the information necessary to perform those calculations. The argument being made here is that we philosophically have been informed through 10,000 years of human acquisition of knowledge, that we have acquired a ton of information, and that we can model reality and make very good intelligent statements about what it's qualitatively doing.
So if you cease to exist, in other words, if I cease to exist, the universe would not exist, because I'm out of the picture. I don't have my subjective experience of what's going on, so how am I supposed to know whether there's something or nothing?
Yeah, how am I? There's no I, right? So there's no you. There's no you now, let alone you after you're dead, idiot. But yeah, the universe still goes on. That's for certain. Stupid fuck.
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, and there could be another life on the table for me after I get out of this picture. It could just repeat itself.
Yeah, it could. How? You know, I mean, can you give me a diagram of how that is that you're going to happen again? What, the same exact life? You're either going to live, what, exactly the same life again? No, stupid.
And that's not off the table either. I mean, I'm not saying that I buy into it. I think it's fun to think.
Yeah, you think it's fun to think about it. Well, then what good is that? What good is talking about what it's fun to do, when really what we should be talking about is what refines and advances our knowledge, our understanding of the functions, that make it possible for us to create better models of reality. Fun isn't really part of the game here. You got to do better than I'm having fun as a philosopher. It really is ugly.
About after you get done with this game, there's another game waiting for you. You know, we all have unique moments in life where things happen to feel familiar to us for no apparent reason. Didn't I meet you?
Yeah, whatever. That's kind of, again, you're going to call that some sort of intelligent person who's going to get confused by coincidences? I don't think so. Deja vu? Oh, gee, I can't understand that concept. We can't understand them as phenomenon of psychology, not phenomenon of reality. Oh, yes, we can. We can do that. No problem.
Before, well, maybe on some level we all met each other before. This is just an idea in perennial philosophy, and I can throw it out there. I'm not attached to it, really.
Yeah, but all you're doing is wasting time with that crap, right? Save that for some kind of bullshit conversation. Don't make arguments like that where you're, half your video you're saying, I know something, here's my I know, and then you're filling the rest of it with absolute crap and then saying, here, you pick which ones are I'm saying seriously and which ones are just bullshit. I mean, it's just bullshit to play that game. Either make a bullshit video or make a serious video, but don't mix the two.
So, everything is based on subjectivity. Everything is based on subjective mind. And you can say brain, but the fact is we don't experience everything as a brain.
Well, again, you can say anything you want to about how your brain works, but I'm experiencing mine now as a brain, okay? I mean, I'm not being fooled that there's something else going on besides the fact that, yeah, there's conceptual programs that are filling my consciousness. The subconscious creates the thing called me and floats it into my consciousness, and I watch me happen. I don't have any say in it. I'm just a byproduct of the process of brain. But there's nothing else in there. There's no free wills or any free anything or any magic dust or any of that kind of crap.
I experience a thing as my mind. And now, you get this thing of neuroplasticity. neuroplasticity where you can change your brain by willpower.
Well, that's more crap. You change your brain. I mean, just there's no point in saying shit like that. The fact is, again, there's a hierarchy of programs that are inside of you. If you have a good, if the democracy inside those programs, then the vast majority of them become somewhat educated, they're going to realize that Einstein's smarter than whatever, Big Bird, and they're going to go with the Einstein programs. The Einstein programs are going to get validated, and they're going to get rewarded, and they're going to become dominant in terms of your thought process. It's not just subjective crap, it's serious percolation. It's a serious process of rising things that have continuity, sensibility, logical integrity, evidence, weight. Those kind of things will make things in a sensibly ordered brain, one that's become enlightened by intelligence, will be capable of making those distinctions, and the things, the concepts, again, that show that kind of integrity, that survive being tested, their brain will be dominant by those themes and those trains of thought.
So how does it make sense to say that your brain is changing your brain? Then you've just got things going on and you can't explain where they're actually coming from because you're resorting to the circular cause of my brain is causing my brain to change. And that was another thing inmendham brought up about.
Yeah. Well, there's no problem. I mean, it's information, and again, something that's 20 years old can create a change today, just because of the way the eddy function of the brain works, and the way that things are connected to each other, and just the way that the clockwork runs through, that all of a sudden there's some gears that only turn once every 20 years, just because of the way it all flows through. There's some things on the pinball machine, there's probably some little corners in the pinball machine that only get hit once a week.
A cause and effect, where it's like, okay, tell me one cause and one effect. Like, if we really understand cause and effect so well, tell me a cause and tell me an effect. If I smoke, I get cancer.
Well, anyway, that's just such a stupid thing. It's a stupid subject to even use as an example of cause and effect, because obviously you don't get cancer. You increase your likelihood of certain conditions like emphysema and lung cancer, but you also decrease other kinds of vulnerabilities, and you only increase these things in terms of loss of life in the end of life versus other activities that have other implications. But we certainly know that if you light a match, you will cause a flame to appear at the end of the match through the process of striking it. And so we know these limited circumstances and their cause and effects. There's no point in going, look, it's a deterministic universe. It's all playing out. It's determined. It's already predictable. It's a script we read. All right, it's not a script we write. So what? What does that have to do with anything? Oh, that's right. It has nothing to do with any part of this idea that we still have to read the script. We still have to go through the process of learning step by step by step. There's no way to jump ahead. We have to read it to the conclusion. We have to read all the words to get to the end.
I smoked, I got cancer. Why did you smoke? Well, I smoked because I liked how it felt. Well, why did you like how it felt? Well, because there was a human and a plant evolution that happened for millions of years where this chemical mimicked a neurotransmitter, and,
Millions of years. See, why bother with this kind of crap, right? You're not doing it seriously. I mean, the relationship between humans and tobacco is not millions of years old. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. What's the fucking point of... It's just, why bother with crap like that? If you're going to make huge mistakes like that, you're just talking out of your ass, as you admit. And so for what purpose? I mean, do that in videos labeled, I'm not talking philosophy, I'm just talking shit. and talk shit to people who want to talk shit. I don't want to talk shit. I don't want to explain why what you just said is shit. I don't want to waste my time doing that.
E equals mc squared. You know, the conversion of energy into matter. I don't see that shit at all. I don't see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't see that shit. That is a creation of mind. We only understand math through our mind. So to say everything's mathematical is essentially saying everything's based on mind. And the world...
Yeah, well, again, so that's just bullshit. The relationship between the radius of a circle and its circumference is not a product of your mind. It's a product of the physical reality and the physical built-in structure of that reality. There are relationships built into it. The fact is, the concept of two exists as a thing in the universe. It has functional consequences, two-ness and three-ness and four-ness. You could argue there's no triangles without three-ness, right? Three-ness has to come into effect to create the three angles that create the triangle. These concepts are not something we create. They are things we discover and we model them in our mind. Okay, we create a duplicate, as good as possible duplicate of the real circumstance in our knowledge base, and attempt to model accurately the reality of how it functions, how the function functions. It's not just subjective. It's not a cartoon that we created. Fuck.
The world of mathematical forms is the world of mind. Like, this is why I didn't understand why I had such a problem with saying form is in the mind. There's no difference between energy. There's no distinguishing. All of the quantum particles.
So I mean, this stupid argument. You know, yes, but they're different mechanisms. Okay, the blueprint of the Empire State Building, it has made up of quanta, it's made up of electrons, it's made up of atoms, but it's not the Empire State Building. We know the difference between the two, and one arrangement of matter contains information regarding what the Empire State Building is, how it is constructed, okay, its form, and so it's taken a huge structure and reduced it to a simple diagram that explains structure in a very efficient manner. But they're not the same thing, and they're not claiming to be the same thing. No one's claiming the blueprint is the building.
Are indistinguishable. You get no difference between any quarks. You get no difference between electrons, photons. They're all the same shit. They're interchangeable. The photons and electrons in our
yeah, well, you say so, right? You say they're interchangeable. You know, you say there's no difference. I'm going to argue there probably is a difference, and depending on where they are, they're moving in a different way. But again, irrelevant to the point that we know that some matter is configured. You know, the fact that this battery has a name on it, you know, means something. We know why the name exists on it. Okay, that matter is arranged in that way for a reason. It's not there for no reason, and we can understand the reason.
Fucking brains right now are just doing this constantly. They're not the same. An electron doesn't give a fuck whether it's in a lamp, in a head, in a star.
And who's claiming the electrons care? Who's doing that? So this is what? Who are you talking to? What argument are you making? This is just babble. You know, tell us all something. Well, water's wet. Yeah, well, I know that, asshole.
On this computer, they don't give a fuck. So, you know, it doesn't matter to them. They don't see numbers. They don't see any of that shit.
So again, who says electrons see? Who says electrons have eyes? Who says electrons have ears? Who says electrons have brains? Oh, that's right. Nobody says that. Straw man.
That's up to us to determine, oh, wait, this is a brain, this is a computer, this is whatever, this is other shit that we make the distinguishing categories.
Yeah, we make the category. No, we don't understand the differences. We don't discover the differences. We create the differences. Okay, so the difference between a skunk and a porcupine isn't something to do with skunks and porcupines. It isn't something to do with their genetic DNA molecule being different. No, it's just something we made up. No, of course it's not something we made up, asshole.
Because they're in our minds. Like, that's not a thing that actually exists in the world.
Cute kitty, ugly fuck. Okay? I didn't make that up. Alright, the cute part and the ugly part I made up. But the kitty part and the, whatever. Anal birth, I didn't make up.
It's like if aliens came here, they would have numbers for sure, but they wouldn't be our numbers, they'd be different.
Well, again, I don't know. 2 would still be 2, so it doesn't matter whether you call 2 croc or blook or ink or blanc. Okay, it's still going to be 2. So you're not going to unravel 2-ness or 3-ness or 4-ness in terms of this description. Like they have really easy, so conceptually. So when you're talking about higher math, then yeah, you can have lots of other systems of math where, times 10 versus times 15 or times, you can have binary math and all kinds of different kinds of math. So that's a whole different, you can represent math for equations in different ways and use a different form of mathematics. But that is different than 2-ness. And certainly they will understand tree and up and down and rock and planet. I'm sure they'll have a word for planet. They'll understand the concept. They might even have a word for evolution.
They wouldn't understand our science if they had different senses, but they would get our numbers. We'd be able to translate them.
So again, you've made a statement. They wouldn't understand our science. Well, of course they could. They just simply translate the word. Oh, tree, sky, dirt, planet, sun, evolution. Yeah, they all understand all those concepts. They just have a different word. So all you got to do is learn the language, do a translation, and that's it. So not that difficult. Humans have done it over and over again. They've gone into another country, learned the language, murdered everybody, and, blah, blah, blah.
I would be able to translate all these ratios, the numbers, all this other shit. So, but the problem is that everybody has to come to this subjective realization themselves, right?
This subjective realization themselves. Everybody has to come to the subjective realization themselves. I mean, it doesn't say anything. No, you can either be informed in terms of acquiring information regarding function, understand mechanics, so do some minimum amount of knowledge acquisition so you understand the physics and the chemistry and the biology, so you can at least escape silly notions like, oh yes, gods make sense somehow. Expose yourself to enough argumentation to understand why it creates impossible paradoxes. The idea of a god that sits around forever and then one day decides, I will make humans. What was he doing forever?
They have to learn math. They have to learn what's right and wrong. They have to learn values, etc. And if you're the kind of person...
Well, they have to learn. I'm just saying, it's kind of silly. There has to be... The learning has to come to them often, and it often does. It comes to us through all kinds of mechanisms. And people can talk shit at other people, or people can talk intelligence at other people. Yeah, and that makes a difference, in my opinion. Shit makes shit.
Where you look at yourself and you're like, this is meaningless. I have these feelings that I don't like. They're meaningless. I'm not meaning to put words in inmendham's mouth, by the way.
Well, yeah, I think you are, but it doesn't matter. You did it so badly that it just doesn't matter, because they're not even... No one's going to be able to confuse your words for my words.
I'm just talking out of my ass.
That's right.
We can agree or disagree on different issues.
Yeah, but it's sort of important, this idea we can agree or disagree. Yeah, well, this is sort of important. If you disagree, then you have to resolve the disagreements, or there's no point in calling yourselves philosophers or constructive anything. Because there's just absolutely no point.
I think I mainly stated what I actually disagree with. We can talk about these.
No, you didn't state anything. Okay, you just made a bunch of proclamations for which you have no evidence, and said, I want to be hopeful. Well, I don't care what you want. All right, the argument is what's in the best interest of the things that are being tormented on this planet. Your silly hope, are my pragmatic, let's just stop the dumbest, stupidest, ugliest, fucking assholes, smelliest assholes on this planet from imposing suffering without any competence or capacity to do anything about it.
This is what I'm talking about by charitable interpretation, is that you don't call me a fucking asshole just because I try to express myself and I fail. You know.
Oh, it's not about you trying to express yourself. You're making claims, all right? You're making fucking claims, and you're saying, don't argue my claims. It hurts my feelings. Well, fuck you. Don't make claims until you can back them up. So if you're going to say something stupid like, I think reality is in my mind and that you don't really exist, fuck you. You're going to get an argument, shithead. And it's not going to be flattering.
It's a process of trial and error. I believe in evolution and that my abilities will evolve and become better.
Yeah, well, again, evolution